Welcome to Moments Off the Mat. Today we're joined by Coach Brandon Paulson. Coach, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to talking to you, Gary.
Absolutely. What I'd like to do is we'll start right off. I'm going to share a screen with you and you share thoughts with all of us. So, Coach, again, starting in 91 and making that first national team as a high school athlete, this will end up paying great dividends for many athletes that are young and getting a younger than normal start. And so your timeline here, and we're going to talk throughout much of this timeline. I think the only one that we don't really hit on is 1998. You're an NCAA All-American for U of M. And so I think everything else we will hit on at some point. But again, just a basic timeline to start with. And we just want to, as we introduce you, we wanted to go through a few things, your national system that you kind of ran through and how long. And I think it's interesting that all of our viewers catch and pick up that how long that you went domestic to get to this to happen. So talk about that transition just real quick on, being domestic and then moving to international, because that's what we know that we need to have happen with our athletes today.
Yeah, one of my things is, like, if you are a state champion, that you're good enough to be a state champion, then let's be a national champion. And if you are a national champion, well, it's time to work towards being a world champion. And to never, you don't want to settle on something when you can get higher. And so for me, I started, the Fargo Cadets that's the tournament I was training for, or juniors. I went to both, actually, like when I was in 9th grade, cadet and juniors. And that was what I was training for all the time. It was a cadet and junior nationals. That was my goal. And then, it didn't start long after that, where it's like, well, as a national champion, I want to be a world champion. So it's a thought process, I guess, that I went through. And, I started going to nationals when I was in 8th grade, and it moved on from there and tried to make world teams from then. And I lost a lot of them, right? I made a lot of world teams, but I lost a lot of world teams too. So it comes with the territory.
Well, and I think all those things prepare you for some of the things that we'll talk about, but big highlights, obviously 96 in Atlanta. Right after that, you come back in 201, 202, 203. And I've heard you say several times that you felt that's when you were wrestling your very best. Is that?
Absolutely. I made the Olympic team, won a silver medal in 96. I wrestled through 2000. I wrestled college, but then I took like a year off of Greco, and I came back and wrestled, basically 98 through 2004. And I didn't make the Olympic team, I was 2000 and 2004 runner-up, but those 6 years were, I would never do anything different as far as, wrestling, but nothing's guaranteed. And I learned more about wrestling in those 6 years than I did my previous, 24, just as being a coach and a wrestler. So, I hit my peak, somewhere between 2001 and 2004. I still was wrestling well. And I think I became great, to me, is what I call it, is I became my best during that time, where I did everything right. And I was a professional, and I trained right, ate right. I figured things out technically. And so, it was really enjoyed myself, learned how to love the fight, and learned a lot during that time.
I think part of that too is, you became your own best coach during those years. You were getting into that coaching mode, and you had transferred to that. And at the same point in time, you're still competing, and it garnered you the Coach of the Year in 2008, as well as 2016. And here you are with Coach Bezic and another man that you've worked with quite a bit in your life. And so, I love wrestling because it's a very small circle, but it's deep. And so one touches another, and then we just keep dominoing it. So let's move on to a great weekend that you had last year. as it culminates or it honors a career that you've had up to this point, and you're not even close to being done. So, and don't smile too big on that one, but distinguished member of the U.S. Hall of Fame and in Stillwater, and talk about that experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable that, considering United States Hall of Fame, how many people are the people that are in there right now. And, when I got that call, it was surprising, I guess, a little bit surreal, because you never really think of yourself as a Hall of Famer. Your job is to go out and do the best you can, try to win your national titles, try to be a world champion, try to be great, do your best. And, and then the accolades come later. So, and that was the Hall of Fame weekend. I'm not the most social guy all the time. I've always said I talk better in front of groups, but that weekend I felt pretty happy. I was pretty happy where I could socialize with a lot of people, and I had a lot of people from my club come down, which was really cool for me, like families from our club, and then some wrestlers that I had and some coaches that I had, and so it was an awesome weekend and very humbling. Everybody says humbling when they're receiving an award, but when you're receiving an award at the same time as war heroes, there isn't anything more humbling than that, because those guys are really the ones that deserve the recognition, and for me to be there with them was actually very special for me.
Very chosen group. Experience on that first night in and getting to see everything, big smile on your face there. So happy that you had that weekend, and the Hall's forever, right? So
yeah,
that's
pretty awesome.
Cool. You are one in another elite group that you are in, is one of three that have won national titles at all four age groups. And now that's been sealed off, right? Unless we change it. Unless now it's going to go to U15, Cadet, Junior, and then to U23. But U23 is listed as senior now. So this is kind of a different deal. But again, looking at your past marks and all the numbers that you put up and the tournaments that you competed in, it led you to a spot of, now you're 22 in this picture, I believe.
Yep.
And so you've been at this for greater than a decade at that point.
Yep.
On a long haul. So I think that this directs us to how we get started. And in your case, I think this man, why don't we talk about dad and coach and both of those?
Yeah, my dad got me into wrestling, and he was a wrestler, but not necessarily that involved in wrestling when he was younger. And but once I got into wrestling, he went full bore ahead, and so was my kids club coach. And then as we just got older, he got more involved in the state organization. He was refereeing, he was coaching, and then it was more like he's going to do whatever it takes for me to achieve my dreams. Right. So I want to be, when I was younger, I wanted to win Northern Plains. And so he was going to, lead me to that. Then it came to Cadet Nationals. Okay, well, I better be on the cadet staff, and so I can help them out and help the Minnesota Storm. And so, going to Cadet Nationals, and then I think my first time in Vegas, where the senior nationals is now, and the juniors, and my first time in Vegas, I think, was 9th grade. And 2 years later, I ended up wrestling in the Open, when I was in 11th grade. So I competed a lot, and he did whatever he could to get me to the situations that I was in, including camps and whatnot, as far as like national team camps as well. So you see him here with Dan Chandler. He's still now coaching my nephew, his grandson, and of course he's on the national duels coaching team, and he'll be at camps twice a day when he's still got a job with his grandkids, and going to Fargo for a week. And so he's still heavily involved. And if you've ever seen me wrestle, you've seen my dad in the corner. So
yes, he is definitely a lifer, right?
Yeah, he loves it, and great guy, very social, and everybody seems to love Doug. And that's, I go to tournament now and he's not there or whatever, but everybody, high level athletes, guys like Kerry McCoy and Kerry Colott, and guys that I I've been around my whole life. And Frazier, and how's your dad? It's always, how's your dad? And everybody, because he's talked to everybody.
Sure.
He's social.
One other spot that he kind of worked into as well was that high school experience. And again, let's talk about your alma mater.
Yeah, Anoka, it's amazing. We've had 5 Olympic Greco-Roman wrestlers, and it's just to think about that. It's amazing. And Jim and Dave Hayeswinkle, they were in 68, 72, and they were also, I believe it's just one of them, won world medals as well. And then Dan Chandler, who has done so much for the sport as a coach. I think right now I just looked at, he has 30% of the world and Olympic medals. He was a coach for, like a club coach for in Greco-Roman. So he went to Anoka as well. And then, and that's, those guys' names are on the wall. And, then I was an Olympian in 96, and I came back to my alma mater, and Coach Jake Deichler, who is made the Olympic team in 2008, and it continues on, where we had a junior world team member last year, Tyler Eichens, and a senior national finalist, my nephew, Kelvin Germanero. And so it's almost like you go to Anoka, and in some places, folk style might be king, and it is a big thing there, but it's like when you see that Greco is cool too, it's a cool thing to do. And it's like there's tradition, and you feel proud of that tradition, not just those guys, but other guys that went there and then wrestled cadet and junior nationals because of that as well. So yeah, that's a great picture of these guys I still talk to all the time. I just talked to Jake 2 days ago and Dan yesterday. So that we have relationships for life, and Dan was a mentor of mine, a coach of mine, and really, his passion for Greco kept me in it. And Jake was the ultimate student that I had that was all in, and you made a high school team at 18 and was phenomenal. So.
And you'd mentioned earlier, Tyler, and he gets 10th in the world last year, and was on a great junior team, history-making junior team. So again, it's not, the pipeline is still happening, right? So let's move on, and let's go to the one that so many people talk about still this day. I actually watched this match again last night. When you look at a match and you look at the timestamp and it says 23:11 on it, you're like, okay. And then looking, listening to the videographer and how they had to change out tapes because it was long, and just the rules and what they were going to do because it's a new experience. But at the same point in time, the biggest thing for, I think, a lot of people, Coach, is just, again, the first 30 seconds of that match is at a pace that normally you're trying to break somebody in the 4-minute mark maybe. And this thing just kept going. There was a passivity. You get top position, you take a gut wrench. Dennis comes back very late in the match where you two are in the middle of a scrap, and he goes to snap your head, and you go for the actual move itself on a duck under, I believe. Talk us through that little measure first, because I know that's the, most people look at that as that's the match right there. Maybe that's the moment.
Yeah. So, I was ahead, and I was looking for my third point. You need 3 points to win, right? So I believe at that time I was ahead 2-0, yes. And then I felt great, and it was like 20 seconds left in the match, somewhere around there, 20, whatever, somewhere around there. And I was like, man, I feel good. I kind of, you always think this guy maybe he's getting tired or something, and this is at the 5-minute mark or something. So, but you feel great. And I was like, I'm going to attack. And I always believed that you should attack. And I was going to attack. And he threw me in a beautiful front headlock. I mean, it was a beautiful throw. And I've talked to people about this before. It's just like, I've seen Dennis so many times, just, he doesn't know how to lose. He's just going to fight to the end. And after he threw me, I was like, I mean, seriously, come on. I mean, that's silly. But right after that, it was like I was walking back to the center, and I had belief in myself when I stepped on the mat at that time that I was the best in the world. I mean, there was anytime during a match, I can win this match. And so I was going in the down position, down by 1. And I was like, it wasn't like, man, I better just defend and, well, yeah, match over. It was like, how am I going to score points to win? So I had to escape and attack. And, I got my point, and we went into the long overtime.
Even just throughout the entire match, there's so many lessons that can be learned by watching that. And so I know that, there's so many people that have looked at this match, and when you think about the actual time of wrestle, I believe it's 16:54, but it's still, there's so much more. There's another 5 minutes onto that based on all the other things that had to happen. And so there's a couple of stoppages there that had to happen. And just, again, a match that goes, 3 and 4 times longer than normal, it really, it's a whole different ballgame. And it takes 2 special competitors to do that. So talk about this moment.
Yeah, Dennis and I, and for me, again, this was a career, basically. It was leading up to this. I still felt like I was the best in the world. Dennis was a friend of mine. We were Olympic silver medalists in 96 together. But not only that, in 95, when he won the Worlds, that really was another life-changing moment for me, where I was his training partner, but I was like his training partner all summer. I drove over there. It was like 3 to 4 hours to his house. And I spent a lot of time that summer training with him. And when he won that world title in 95, it showed me what I needed to do to be the best in the world, and really motivated me. So we trained together throughout the years, and sometimes on and off or whatever, but always friends. And then we ended up, I went up in weight, he went down in weight, and we had to compete against each other. And we both thought we were the best in the world, and he came out on top. And it was, it was a hard moment for me. And, I think he saw that, and it was, it was a tough moment, and it hurt. But it's supposed to hurt. That's a great thing about wrestling. It's, one of the hard things about wrestling is nothing's guaranteed,
Right.
But I tell you what, if you actually accomplish what you want to accomplish, there's no other feeling like it as well. And when you believe, and the same type of thing is when you believe you're the best guy, you're going to win a lot more matches. I won a ton of matches just because I believed I was the best guy. But then when you lose, it hurts a little bit more, but that's life.
Well, and you take that loss, and then you go to your driveway, and there's a coach waiting for you, and again from the high school, and talk about this situation.
So so my teammate, he was my teammate in high school, and I get back from the Olympic trials, and I'm like, I don't really feel like talking to anybody. And he's like, man, I got this guy. He just wants more and more and more, and I can't do enough for him. I need you to come in and help him out. I'm like, hey, just let me figure things out, But eventually I went in, and I saw his drive and how much he really wanted it, and his skills. He had athletic skills and a motor, and he listened to you. He was coachable. And so I talked to Jake, and I was just like, if you want to be the best, then you let me know, you give me a call, and we'll figure it out, and we'll work towards that. And you could be great. And man, he called me every Sunday. And it's like, what are we doing this week? And sometimes I was tired and didn't want to answer the phone, but he would keep coming. But he was an all-in athlete, and really at a young age, he did whatever I told him to do.
Right?
What's
That's
that?
what the statement is. It made him adaptable.
Yeah, and so anything he learned, if I showed him something, he wasn't scared to do it. And if I told him he needed to go train this way, he was not scared he would go do it. So yeah, and it shows here. We worked on a move. I just showed him offhand, if a guy happens to do this, you're going to do a front headlock and you're going to go the other way. And a couple days later, he did it to Harry Lester, one of the best guys in the world. And so
and that match. And, um, again, the feelings that where you've trained somebody and now you're in the semifinals, right?
Yep.
In that match. And then you made a statement to somebody right after the match, didn't you, about that thought of, he just beat the best guy in the world.
Well, yeah, I was coming off and I was pumping my fist and I was so pumped. And, to me, Harry Lester, and I scouted him a lot. I watched him a lot, and he was one of the favorites to win a gold medal. You win 2 medals in a row. I mean, that doesn't happen that much in Greco. You're one of the
It doesn't.
No, you're one of the favorites to win the gold medal that year in the Olympics. And here's this kid that just graduated high school 2 weeks ago, just beat him. And some people, and more like I think it was like a local media person was like, why are you so excited? I'm like, man, that was one of the best things I've ever seen, and so that one was excitement, and then he gets to the finals. And if you watch that 2 out of 3, I've watched his 2 out of 3 with Farouk Sahin more than I've watched my match with Dennis, which probably because it's a happier ending, but he's losing. He lost the first period every match. And in the second match, he lost the first period and then was down 5-0 in the second period. And he came back and won the second period, won the third period to make the team. And it was, and then it was just more emotional. I wasn't pumping my fist as much as just, man, so proud of him. The work that an athlete puts in, you can't skip it. You can't skip the work. It can't happen. And he did the work. Even though he was 18, he did the work. He put in his pain. He put in his time and deserved it. And I was so proud of him and what he accomplished. And, it was an amazing moment for me. And it was one of my favorites, of my wrestling
absolutely.
life.
It's, again, success is normally for us. Significance is when you allow that to go into someone else and then they produce it.
Yeah.
Yes. So this is definitely a significant moment here. And again, you have so many hats that you're wearing and you just keep adding to it, it seems like. But what you do and how much work you do with Storm, and then what you do with the Minnesota national team and their efforts, and the RTC there, it's all of these things, they all blend into one, but you wear an awful lot of hats. At Pinnacle, you've set up a model, you and Jared, and you've worked through this model. Talk a minute about those 3, maybe how they fit, because you're constantly going.
Yeah. So we go folk style, freestyle, Greco, women's freestyle as well. And, for us, we want to get the guys to be great. So if they want to be an NCAA champ, we're going to do that. And I think some guys are more made to be a world champion, and that's what they should have, goals to be world champions. So we really want to give them a chance to wrestle the international styles. And you have to kind of cater to what those athletes want and what they have a passion for, and try to give them everything they want. And so, we it's a lot of fun, but it is sometimes hard with Pinnacle. We have over 330 kids, I think, in the club, and then trying to get the Storm as well. And then, somebody like Emily who wants to continue going a little bit too as well when she's in college, but also she's important to me too. And then you got guys like Pat Smith on the senior Greco team. So there is a lot. And sometimes I feel like I'm not good enough in any of them because I'm trying to do too much and not focusing enough on one. But, I feel like I'm obligated to help all of them as well. So
obviously they feed off one another too, though, right?
Absolutely.
And one of the things about you that has always amazed me is, again, whether it goes back to the high school tradition and the numbers that we saw earlier, state champions that came out of that high school, the 5 Olympians, the 2 Olympic coaches out of one high school. And then your numbers are 16 national titles, 8 world teams, 3 world and Olympic medals. And then you co-found Pinnacle, and now you produced 127 national titles, 22 world teams, 9 world medals, and then 3 world champions to date right now. And obviously that probably would have changed those numbers. They tend to change each year. So this year that probably would have changed as well. But again, numbers produce that performance piece that you've maintained. This is a young man that had an opportunity to work with in Budapest and last year, year 4, and won a U15 world title, one of those people that you've talked about, and did an outstanding job in his case. You talked about Jake coming back. This young man did the same thing, right? He loses in an early round to probably what was the best guy in that side of the bracket at the time. And then, hours later, turns around, wrestles him again, and really puts a spread on that match. So really fighting back. But talk about that love to fight part one more time.
Yeah, it's the love to fight is kind of encompassing, but there's portions where you got to love to fight in a match where it gets really hard, and you got to be able to come back when you're losing, or you got to be able to keep pushing when you're winning. You got to lift a guy when you're down by 3 and figure it out. But there's also the portion of, you lose to a guy. Are you going to come back the next match and love the fight and look forward to the opportunity to wrestle him again? Or are you going to be like, I don't know, maybe I don't really want to get out the mat with this guy. Love the fight is really about the way you live your life too. Do you love the attitude you get into practice every day? Are you going to get into practice every day and be like, let's get through this? Or are you going to be like, let's go. I love it, man. I'm getting pumped up to go battle somebody and see how tired I can get. And so there's a lot of what goes into love the fight. And, I love our guys that can show that little grit and come back and wrestle hard and really love what they're doing and have the attitude.
Another one that loves to fight, Emily, and first Youth Olympic Games champion for the United States and women's wrestling. And so what a dynamic person. Talk about her.
Emily is she's all in. She's Pat Smith, Jake Deichler, and Emily. I think they're kind of all like, they're all in. They wanted to accomplish, they're out to accomplish their goals. And she puts in more time than anybody we've had. She loves to wrestle. She loves to work out, and she's trying to be the best she can be. And, to me, she's trying to be great, and she's really heading that way of being her best. And she keeps improving and doing what she needs to do to try to, she has a dream, being an Olympic champion, and, she's doing whatever she can to accomplish that dream. And she's fun to work with, and really, if you know Emily, I can actually get her to smile, which is a big accomplishment. But I really enjoy working with her, and she's very coachable too. And when she was younger, she didn't communicate enough to coach and to be able to coach her enough. But now because of wanting to be her best, she's very coachable and is available to learn very well now. So,
and again, you're working with her and her dad. Her dad's a coach as well. And
yeah, and her dad, I don't want to get it. Her dad is her main coach, and I'm there to do whatever I can to help her. Right. But her dad is with her all the time. They live and die wrestling. Right. But they have a great relationship, and I'm there to help him.
That fits because you've seen that before. So know what that dynamic looks like, right?
Right. Exactly. It's exactly. And Chad has seen it before as well. I think he's probably seen it with my dad and me, and and it's not easy to coach a kid, your own kid, because you get emotionally involved, and he knows that too. And we've talked about it, and I've talked about it with my dad, and now I have my own son, and I have to watch myself as well. So it's not always the best, and you have to figure that out, where some people it's okay for, but a lot of people it's not. So, but it's great working with him. It's, I look forward to keep working with her.
Another family member, right? Calvin. So.
Yeah. And Calvin is, sometimes for me, it is hard to work with him. He's a lot different than me. So, and I see him in practice every week, and his grandpa, Papa Doug, my dad, is a big influence on his life and really brought him up almost like he brought me up, where all through the ranks, he was there at every high school practice, every storm practice that he could, and is still coaching him to this day. And Calvin's, extremely talented, and now on the senior level, and took second last year. So
right, coming on. Another one that you've worked with that has had amazing success, and this also links you back to another great, our first world champion, and in Coach Houck. So talk about both of these again. It's those tight circles, right?
Yeah, and Pat Smith is, I work with a lot right now. He's on that, he's a number one guy, and he's on that senior level, but he's at a time right now where he's able to coach himself, where we're kind of just sounding boards now, where we discuss training and techniques and stuff. But, he's an all-in guy, and that's why he is where he is. He's one of the hardest workers you'll ever know. And his mentor was Mike Houck, who we just saw. And Mike Houck was a first Greco world champion, and he was a teacher at Pat's junior high. And that's how Pat kind of got into Greco. So, and Mike was just a brawler and pummeler. And if you watch Pat, it's a very similar style. And so Mike's not just technique, but also his words have helped me and Pat so much through our careers.
Well, he's had an awful lot of success, and you're right. He is a thinking warrior.
Yeah. And I love working with Pat, and he's something that I look forward to going to practice, is to try to push him and to try to help him, and he loves wrestling. He was one of those guys, and we haven't discussed this as much, but like, he was thinking about giving it up 3 years ago, and maybe that was his last quad, and then the more he wrestled, he's like, God, I just love this. I love the wrestling life, and do I need to make that much money right now, or can I continue wrestling and learning and doing it? And I think he's planning on going another quad, because he loves what he's doing right now. And I think some people may give it up early to do other things, but everything is personal, right? But I'm so happy that he continued on, and now still has a chance to make that Olympic team. So,
well, these guys here are part of your family, and then this man here goes all the way back to the starting point, right? For you?
Yeah. So Coach Russell, Joe Russell, when he was 19, hopefully you guys know Joe's story, but he got in an accident. He was one of the best Greco-Roman high school wrestlers ever. And he got into an accident where, one side of his body, he wasn't able to use as much as he wanted, but he went to Minnesota, and he was my kids club coach. And he got me into Greco. He would have Greco practice before our freestyle practice for 30 or 45 minutes, and really got me interested, like, okay, this is something I really like. And this is something I want to get better at. And, maybe this is what I can be an Olympian at. So, he is an inspiration to me, and has been, and someone that when I wrestled and competed, I wanted to do well for him. So I didn't let him down. And even when I coach now, it's more like I want to be a good example for kids, because he was such a good example for me, not just on the mat, but as a person. Joe was awesome. So somebody I really look up to.
We have these kind of family members, and then we've got our actual family, right?
Yeah.
Daughter Sydney, Abby, and then Eli, and again the triad there, 3 different generations, and you've talked about that already, and then obviously Shelly. So talk a little bit. I'm gonna pull back off of this now, and I just want you to talk about your family and what that part of it means for you.
It's always a balance. And for me, my faith, my family, were always the most important. You know, when you're training, sometimes I'm going to wrestle in the world championships tomorrow. You know, wrestling was very important, but my family understood that. So when I was competing, I had a kid, I was married, and my family came first. So I had to decide how much I was going to travel. It was like, okay, how is it going to work with this? And, you know, how am I going to make a living? But my wife was working full time, so I could wrestle. That's how awesome she was, you know. And to me, they've always been supportive of what I do, and wrestling is such a big part of my life. So sometimes they took a back seat, and so I had to make them, you know, the center of my attention in other times when, you know, sometimes I would like to be going more internationally with the senior level, but it's really, I have time with my family, and I need to, that's the most important thing to me. So, you know, I love my kids and my wife, and I spend as much time as I can with them. And really my decisions, whatever decisions I make, you look at what's important to you, right? You look at your faith, you look at your family, and then, you know, your career. And so I love being around them, and they're very special.
It's always a tough balance.
It is. And, you know, we talked about a little bit earlier, just that was one of the toughest parts of being an athlete, is trying to balance. So a senior level athlete is trying to balance your life. So,
Coach, as we close out today, I'd like you to take a moment and you know, reflect back to your time that when you decided you wanted to be an Olympian, because we're about to go back to that same city. Talk about that for a moment.
So when I was 10, it was the Olympic Games, 1984, ages me a little bit, but so I was watching open ceremonies. And again, I got, if you can see my hair standing up, every time I talk about it, I watch the opening ceremonies of the Olympic Games in Los Angeles. And then for 2 weeks, I watched, you know, everything I could of the Olympic Games. And really it was like, man, that's what I want to do, you know. And I was 10, so I didn't, you know, I was okay at wrestling, but it wasn't like maybe it was going to be in tennis or whatever. I don't know, but I want to be an Olympian. And you know, and then as I got a little older, when I was in 7th grade, it was, I started to get a little bit better at wrestling, and kind of was looking at maybe wrestling was my sport. And I, you know, for me, I remember the first time I figured out, it was, what can I do to get better and to achieve my goal or dream, instead of what do I have to do. And, you know, as Northern Plains, which they still have now, and that was the big tournament for me. And I set up my own training schedule, like, okay, this is what I need to do to win Northern Plains, you know, and which seems silly, but it was like I was starting to coach myself already and figure out, this is what I got to do if I want to be a, you know, a champion. And that was you know, to be a champion, that's what it meant to me to win Northern Plains. But, you know, and then Jill Russell came into my life after that, and I got, you know, more involved in Greco-Roman and fell in love with the sport, and it moved on from there. So now we got the Olympics next year, hopefully. And in 2028, it's in LA. And I hope other people see that and are, you know, dreaming to be in the Olympics in 2028, and don't let go of that dream, you know, and people just talk about dreams like flippantly, but to me, that's what I wanted to do. And it was like, then what do I need to do to get there? So there's going to be work. It's just not like you dream and that's it. It's like, okay, now I got to put the time in to try to accomplish that goal. And it was, I don't know what would have happened if I didn't watch Olympics that summer. Maybe I wouldn't be where I was. Right. So yeah, it's Olympics are awesome. Nothing like it. The experience, even just the drive to it. And I, you know, just even after I made the team and I didn't make the next two, it was still, I was training to try to achieve my goal of being an Olympic champion. I was in that atmosphere. It's unbelievable. And don't regret any of it. And I, you know, it was awesome. So
that's great words. And it is about what we can do, not what we have to. And so we appreciate that. And we appreciate the fact that you're a consummate professional, and yet a passionate heart that drives yourself, that acts as that example for your student athletes. So we can't thank you enough for the time. This has been Moments Off the Mat with Coach Brandon Paulson. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate you.
Coach.